All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're kind of looking at our minds,
Right.
right? Like not literally, but like as these intricate systems, like the devices we all use.
Yeah, like our phones and laptops and stuff.
Exactly. And I was thinking about it the other day. It's like when you install software on your computer, that Install.exe, that's what really determines what it can do. And it's kind of like that with our minds, too. What we choose to, feed ourselves, the books we read, the shows we watch, even the conversations we have, those things shape our thoughts, our feelings, and ultimately our actions.
Definitely. It really is about the architecture of our inner world.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. And I think a lot of times we kind of go through life like our internal world is, set in stone.
Right. Like it's a given. We can't really change it.
Totally. But that's not really how it is it? It's way more fluid than that, like constantly being like rewritten by the information we're taking in.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there. And I think that's why you're all here listening.
Yeah, right. You're all probably interested in personal growth,
Yeah.
constantly trying to figure out how your own mind works.
Yeah, like this ongoing project. It's never truly finished.
So that's kind of our mission for today, isn't it? To explore this whole idea, this back and forth between the power of what we take in and how it all shapes our mental operating system.
That's right. And hopefully we can pull out some useful stuff along the way.
Totally. Some actionable takeaways. That's what we like. Okay, so, starting at the beginning, our brains are not fixed things,
Yep.
right?
Nope. No, they're not.
They change over time. We know that.
Yeah, throughout our whole lives, they adapt. That's what that whole neuroplasticity thing is about. The brain can reorganize, make new connections between neurons, even as we get older.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing, right? Like, it's not like some fixed machine or whatever.
Not at all. It's pretty amazing.
You know what? I think it was BBC News. They had this report. They were showing brain scans of people before and after they did this 6-week meditation program. And you could actually see physical changes.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, pretty wild, right? So it's like whatever we experience can actually leave a real physical mark on our brains.
That's incredible. And I think what's so cool about that study is that it kind of shows you have to keep at it. Like with installing software on your computer, it takes a while to finish. It's not instant. These changes in the brain, they need consistent practice.
Wow, so it's not just like a one-time thing.
Not at all. And actually, the people who did that study, they said that if they extended the meditation program for like a whole year, they thought the changes would be even more significant. Like the more you do those mental exercises, the stronger the connections get.
Right, so it's almost like we're running that install.exe over and over, and then it actually becomes a real part of the system. That makes sense. But, like the guy in that video said, not all of us can go off to some meditation retreat for a year. Real life gets in the way. So, like, how can we actually use this neuroplasticity thing in our everyday lives with work, kids, all that stuff?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Like, how do we make this practical?
Right.
Well, what if we think about the choices we make, what we choose to learn about, to focus on, like the software we're trying to install? Then all those books on personal growth and self-improvement, those are like the installation packages, different approaches and tools.
Oh, okay. Like different programs, right, for different things.
Exactly. Like, think about Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. It's been around forever.
And it's still popular for a reason. I think it's because it's like really structured and organized, a way to be more effective in all parts of your life, not just one.
Right. It's not just about work or relationships. It's like everything.
Exactly. And what's really interesting about Covey's approach is that it starts with like building a strong foundation inside yourself. Principles like being proactive, setting goals, deciding what's really important. That comes first.
Right. Okay.
And then once you have that, then it's about how you interact with other people, being empathetic, communicating clearly, and then it's about never stopping learning and growing,
Yeah.
always renewing yourself.
Right. I like that, like a solid base.
Exactly. It's super fundamental. You can use it in pretty much any part of your life. Then you have a book like Awaken the Giant Within.
Oh, yeah. Tony Robbins. That's like a totally different vibe, like high energy, big changes.
Yeah, exactly. Robbins gives you this whole toolbox,
Yeah.
like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where you look at how your thoughts and words and actions are all connected.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like figuring out how to use those connections to make positive changes in your life. And then there's EFT, emotional freedom techniques, where you tap on these acupressure points while you're focusing on a problem.
So it's like physical and mental at the same time.
Exactly. It helps to kind of regulate your nervous system. These are both ways to make some pretty big changes.
Okay, so it's powerful stuff.
Definitely. But, some people find it's just like Too much. Trying to tackle everything at once, like beliefs and relationships, like trying to install this huge software suite all at
Right,
once.
it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, a book like You Are a Badass, that's completely different.
Oh, yeah, Jen Sincero, that's a good one. So much more like direct and funny.
Yeah. Like,
What?
she doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Not at all. What's cool about her book is that she like demystifies the whole self-improvement thing. It's not this big, complicated, scary thing.
Yeah, it feels more relatable.
Exactly. And she uses humor to help us deal with those negative voices we all have in our heads, you know?
Oh, totally. We all have that inner critic.
Yeah, and she helps you like reframe that voice. Start believing in yourself.
Right, and it's a good mix of, like, personal stories and advice you can actually use. Like, it feels like you're getting advice from a friend.
Right, a really supportive friend. Now, the power of habit, that one's all about the science of our routines, the stuff we do without thinking.
Oh, yeah. Charles Duhigg, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, he digs into how habits form and, even more importantly, how we can change them.
Ah, so it's not just about understanding them, it's about doing something about it.
Yeah, exactly. He looks at those routines, you know, the ones that are like programs running in the background, things we do automatically.
Yeah, like when your phone buzzes and you automatically check it.
Totally. And he explains how that works. Like it's this loop. You've got the cue, the thing that triggers the habit, then the routine itself, and then the reward you get afterwards that makes you want to do it again.
Right, so it's like a cycle.
Exactly. And once you see how that loop works, you can start to change it. Like maybe your phone buzzes, but instead of checking it, you take a deep breath or something else that's good for you.
I like that. Makes sense. And then there's Carol Dweck's book, Mindset.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's all about how our beliefs affect what we can do.
Yeah, she really gets into the core software, you know, how we see ourselves.
Right, like our self-image.
Exactly. And she makes this really important distinction between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
So, like, fixed is where you think you can't really change.
Yeah, like you're born with a certain amount of talent or intelligence, and that's it. But a growth mindset is the belief that you can always learn and grow no matter what.
Right, like you have the potential to keep developing.
Exactly. And her research is so fascinating, especially the part about how the way we praise kids can actually make them develop a fixed mindset without us realizing it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so even when we're trying to be positive, the information we're giving can have these unintentional consequences.
That's wild. Okay, so we've got all these books, all these different approaches, like different installation packages, but just reading them isn't enough, is it?
No, not at all. It's like buying a software program but never actually installing it on your computer.
Right, it's not going to do anything just sitting there.
Exactly. We need to actively use that knowledge. That's what actually makes the changes.
So it's like running the installer.
Yes. And there are so many resources out there for this, like Lifehack, Better Up. They've got tons of ideas for how to put this stuff into practice, into your daily life.
Right, to really install those positive changes.
Yeah, make them stick.
Like that idea of writing a letter to your future self.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. It's such a cool way to get really clear on what you want.
Right, like defining exactly what you want to install.
Exactly. And when you actually write it down, it makes it more real, like a promise to yourself.
It's like making that commitment.
Yes. And then there's the classic advice. Get out of your comfort zone.
Right, that one comes up all the time, but it's so true.
It's where the real growth happens. Staying in your comfort zone is like, you know, refusing to update your software. Eventually, you're going to be running on an outdated system.
It's going to be slow, boogie, all that.
Totally. And Better Up, they have this idea that you should focus on your strengths first. You know, build momentum from what you're already good at before you try to fix your weaknesses.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, it's smart. It's like installing the core components of a system first.
Right, the essential stuff, and then you can add the extras later.
Exactly. And then there's the whole idea of decluttering, both your physical space and your mind.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one too. Like getting rid of stuff you don't need.
Yeah, it's about letting go of things that aren't serving you anymore, whether it's clothes or negative thoughts. You know, it frees up space for the new stuff.
It makes sense. Kind of like making space on your hard drive.
Exactly. And there's this method called Kaizen where you make tiny, tiny changes every day.
Oh, I like that. Small steps.
Yeah, it's about consistency. Those small improvements, they add up over time, like, you know, regular small updates to your system.
Right, like those little software updates that happen in the background. And I think this is a big one. You have to keep going, even when it gets hard.
Persistence, yeah. That's so crucial. It's not always going to be easy. You're going to hit bumps in the road.
It's like those error messages that pop up sometimes.
Exactly. The important thing is to not give up. Keep that installer running. And being curious, that helps too. Always being open to new information, new upgrades.
Like exploring new possibilities, new ways of doing things.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
choosing to have a positive attitude, a growth mindset, that's like choosing the right operating mode for your brain.
I like that. So what about just trying new things? Does that help too?
Absolutely. Trying new things, it's like installing drivers for all sorts of new hardware. It makes you more adaptable. And, we can't forget about self-care.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
So important for recharging your batteries. You can't install anything new if your system's totally drained.
Right. It's like trying to run a program when your battery's about to die.
Exactly. And learning to say no, setting boundaries, that's a big part of self-care too.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one for a lot of people.
It is. But when you learn to say no to things that aren't important to you, it frees up time and energy for the things that are.
Right, like making time for those crucial installations.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about like choosing the right programs, right? But let's look a bit more at the actual installation process, how these choices affect our brains on a physical level.
Right, the nuts and bolts of how it all works.
Yeah, like rewiring those neural pathways. There was this article on Healthline, and they were talking about how our brains can change throughout our life. Like, it's not just when we're young, it's always happening.
Yeah, that whole neuroplasticity thing again.
Exactly. And they talked about some specific things that are really good at stimulating those changes, like listening a new
Oh
language.
yeah, that's supposed to be great for your brain.
It really is. It can help with so many things, like speaking more fluently, paying attention better, improving memory, even dealing with your emotions better.
Wow, that's a lot.
Right. And some research suggests that it can even help prevent cognitive decline.
Oh wow. So it helps keep your brain sharp as you get older.
Exactly. And it can actually strengthen the white matter in your brain, which is like the wiring that connects different parts of your brain.
So it's like a whole system upgrade.
Totally. And playing a musical instrument, that's another good one.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too. Makes you smarter or something.
Well, it can definitely boost your mood and it can strengthen your immune system too.
Yeah.
And it helps you learn new things in other areas.
So music is good for you in so many ways.
It really is. And it's great for neuroplasticity. It gets all these different parts of your brain working together.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And what about things like, drawing or painting or sculpting?
That's good too. Even just doodling can activate this network in your brain called the default mode network. It's like a resting state for your brain, but it actually can help boost your creativity. And sometimes it can even help break bad habits.
Really? So like taking a break can actually help you be more productive.
Yeah, in a way. It's like letting your computer run those background processes, to optimize the system.
Makes sense. And of course, we all know that exercise and a healthy diet are good for your brain too.
Totally. That's like the basic maintenance for your system, like making sure you're running the latest version of your operating system.
Okay, so we've talked about different things we can do to like change our brains, but how do habits actually form?
Right. Like, how do these things become ingrained in our brains?
Yeah, like why do we do some things automatically without even thinking about it?
Well, there was this article from the vice president for research at Colorado State University, and it talked about this three-part habit loop: the cue, the routine, and the reward. It all happens in a part of the brain called the basal ganglia.
Okay, so that's where the habit lives, in the basal ganglia.
Exactly. And once you understand this loop, you can start to change your habits.
So how do you do that?
Well, when you notice the cue, you can choose to do something different instead of the usual routine. It's like retraining your brain to respond in a new way.
So you're basically rewiring those connections.
Exactly. And the article gave some tips for breaking bad habits, like changing the cues that trigger them.
Like what kind of things?
Well, like if you want to start journaling every day, you could put a journal by your bed so you see it first thing in the morning. Or if you want to eat healthier, you could leave a note on the fridge reminding yourself to choose healthy snacks.
Right, so you're setting yourself up for success by changing your environment.
Exactly. And it all comes back to that idea of conscious input. We're constantly bombarded with information and it's shaping our minds.
It's like our brains are being programmed by everything we see and hear and read.
Exactly. There's this article on Strike that talks about information analysis. It's about how we organize and understand data.
So it's like, how do we make sense of all this information?
Yeah, and how does it affect our decisions? And our brains are doing that all the time with every piece of information we come across.
Wow, that's a lot of processing. And then there's that book by Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. I've heard of that one.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. He talks about how our brains have these built-in biases that affect how we see the world.
Right, like mental shortcuts that can sometimes lead us astray.
Exactly. And those biases, they can really affect how we take in new information.
It's like our brains are filtering everything through our existing beliefs.
Yeah, so sometimes we might resist new information that doesn't fit with what we already believe, even if it's true.
That's interesting. So it's like we have to be aware of those biases if we want to install new software in our brains.
Exactly. And then there's this other book, The Information Summary and Review. It looks at how information has shaped human thought throughout history.
Oh, wow, that sounds fascinating.
It is. They talk about how the invention of writing changed everything.
Right, because before that, it was all oral tradition.
Exactly. And writing allowed us to store and transmit information in a totally new way.
It's like upgrading from like a floppy disk to a hard drive.
Totally. And then they talk about these things called memes. And I don't mean those funny pictures on the internet.
Right, not those kinds of memes.
No, in this context, memes are like ideas or beliefs that spread from person to person.
Oh, okay, so like cultural ideas that replicate themselves.
Exactly. And they can be really powerful, like viruses spreading through a population.
So it's like information itself can have a life of its own.
Totally. And then think about electricity, how it changed everything.
Right, like how fast we can communicate now.
Exactly. And that's a good metaphor for how information spreads today, especially with the internet and social media.
It's like information is constantly being downloaded into our brains.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And there's this YouTube video that summarizes James Gleick's book, The Information, and it goes through this whole history of information, from drums to digital encyclopedias.
Wow, so it's like the way we consume information is always evolving.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really important point. We have the power to choose what information we let into our minds.
Right, we have agency. We're not just passive receivers.
Exactly. There's this other video from Motivation Hub, and it talks about how by the time we're 35, about 95% of who we are is already programmed.
Wow, 95%, that's a lot. So like most of our behavior and reactions are already set in stone.
In a way, yeah, it's like this program that's running in the background.
So what about that other 5%?
That's where our conscious mind comes in, our intentions. That's the part that can change things.
So even though a lot of our behavior is automatic, we still have some control.
Exactly. The problem is if we're not paying attention and we just keep running the same old program over and over.
Right, like being stuck in a rut.
Yeah, and it can feel like we don't have free will, like we're just reacting to things. But the good news is we don't have to wait for some big crisis to make a change. We can choose to change right now.
That's empowering. So how do we do that?
Well, one way is through visualization, mentally rehearsing actions that we want to take in the future.
Oh, that's interesting. So like imagining yourself doing something can actually make it more likely that you'll do it.
Exactly. It's like creating a blueprint in your brain.
I like that. And there's that book, Rewire Your Brain.
Oh, yeah. Arden talks about how when brain cells fire together, they wire together.
So the more you do something, the stronger those connections get.
Right. And he has this method called feed focus, effort, effortlessness, and determination.
Okay, so it's about being intentional and persistent.
Exactly. And he talks about how the left side of your brain is more associated with positive emotions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So the idea is that you can train your brain to be more positive by focusing on positive thoughts and experiences.
Like shifting your brain to the left.
Exactly. And he also talks about social medicine, how important relationships are for our well-being.
Right, we're social creatures. We need connection.
Totally. And having healthy relationships can actually make you healthier overall, both mentally and physically.
So it's like a software update for your whole system.
I like that analogy. And it all comes back to those personal stories we were talking about, like in that Reddit thread.
Oh yeah, that one where people were sharing their self-improvement experiences.
Exactly, like that person who started journaling and reading every day, and it made a huge difference in their life.
Right, small changes can have big effects.
Totally. And then there was that other person who realized they were breathing incorrectly, and they had to consciously retrain themselves to breathe properly.
Wow, that's amazing. Like even something as basic as breathing can be improved.
Exactly. And then there was that person who realized they didn't need to fix themselves. They just needed to listen to themselves more.
Right, self-acceptance is so important.
Totally. And then there was that other person who realized that their worth wasn't tied to their achievements. They started using positive affirmations to change their self-talk.
So it's like reprogramming your brain to think more positively.
Exactly. And that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? Choosing what we want to install in our minds.
So we've come full circle.
We have. We started by talking about how our minds are like computers, and we ended up back at the same place.
And it's really empowering, isn't it? We have more control over our thoughts and feelings than we might realize.
Absolutely. And it all starts with awareness.
Right. Paying attention to what we're consuming, what we're believing, what we're telling ourselves.
Exactly. And choosing wisely.
Because ultimately, we're the programmers of our own minds.
We are.
So as we go about our day-to-day, let's all ask ourselves,
Mhm.
what are we installing into our minds?